Hi there, and welcome back to the treehouse. My name's Ree, and this is the tarot tree. And today, I thought I'd just do a little VR to this tag that I recently saw, and I thought was actually really pretty cool, pretty entertaining. And that is my the weirdest tarot cards or the most disturbing tarot cards that I have in my collection. I've seen this on two channels. I think I'll give them their props. First and foremost, Saturnarium, I think, created the weird tarot tag first. And that was really funny seeing their choices. Some really disturbing decks, especially the Bosch deck, but really some quite profound interpretations. I really enjoyed what they had to say about that. And then also recently I saw the most disturbing tarot cards on Tarot for the Heathens. Another great exploration in some really cool and quite macabre and disturbing decks. But again, great exploration. And I thought, let's just give this a go. So why not? I don't have the biggest collection of disturbing decks, to be honest with you. I've got 3 tarot here and 2 oracle to show you for the weird and disturbing, but hopefully you'll see what I mean. It's a fun tag, so get involved. So yeah, I'll leave it there and let's get into it. Why not? So first out we have the BloodMoon Tarot. Okay, we think, oh, a bit weird, a bit disturbing. Yes, I believe so, especially certain cards, as you're going to see. I think this tarot deck does quite creepy things when it comes to the swords suit, to be honest. As you'll see, it's called Dreams here, so let's just have a look at some of these cards. Okay, let's zoom in for this so we can get a good look at the cards. So, with the BloodMoon Tarot, it's got a good mix of light and dark. That's what I really love about this deck. That's why it's one of my favourites. But this is about weird and disturbing and creepy kind of cards within our collection. And what I feel this deck does really well is the swords cards, particularly for this element, okay, in which are named Dreams in this, as you'll see. This one's a bit more mild, okay. We got this character, but it's still quite eerie with these kind of eyes. And this is what the kind of thread that you'll notice throughout this sword kind of suit is this weird, dreamy, like night terror creatures, okay? We'll get back to that Hermit because that's another one that's quite shocking. But let's get to these guys here. As you can see, there's like these demon wolf kind of creatures that are all kind of illustrating some of the tough cards of the sword suit, which is why it's so great. And I said this earlier, this deck does it so well. The cards that are meant to kind of confront us in this deck are very confronting. They don't shy away from kind of making you feel that, look, that 9 of Swords energy there. Everything's just becoming overwhelming, and it's more than just swords in the back. This is some kind of actual entity. Also kind of might remind you a bit of maybe things like insomnia when they're bad, depression when they're bad, any kind of grief as well with these 3 of Swords, and the way they feed on you. They feed on your kind of life force, and they really get that across. These, look at them, they're like emaciated bone-like creatures, and it's the eyes that do it for me. That's what's so disturbing and creepy about these cards. It's the eyes. I just can't get away from them. They're literally bearing into your soul, like, yeah, I'm eating you up, especially on this 3 of Swords. The character can't even face us in this one. You see all the characters, like, they're quite forlorn, they can't even face what's happening to them. And I think, I find that helps me very much, like when, because I think that's quite true of some of these cards, that's what they mean. But it's still weird and creepy as hell. Literally, they're devouring him. Reminds me, I don't know if anyone's familiar with like anime. Let me put that down a sec. If you've seen Full Metal Alchemist, where all the kind of dark hands and all the eyes come out the door and like drag them in, trying to take parts of them away. That's kind of the vibe I get from this, and that creeps me out there and it creeps me out here. But it makes me kind of pay attention to just how painful some of these cards can be, or what I need to be aware of, and I appreciate this deck for that. It also reminds me a bit of another manga anime called Noragami, which is where your kind of negativity, or sort of like things that people are going through, their traumas, actually become almost like demon figures that the people in the show, like, they can't see but feed off that person. That's what these kind of entities, you know, that's what makes it more sinister and macabre for me. It's like something, you know, from a thought, something so kind of real and demonic has been manifested, that's like feeding off of you. And that's creepy. That's really creepy. Or that devil card there, that's actually quite macabre as well. The Hermit. Wow, okay, what can I say about this? It's probably one of my favourite Hermit cards of all time, especially when I read what the artist has to say about the thought process behind it, in terms of this being a meteor that's being wandering and hurtling through the cosmos, much like a hermit character does, you know, observing the cosmos, picking up all the wisdom, and then it's, you know, landed down onto the earth, this sort of bright pinnacle of knowledge, and yet you have this really kind of eerie, I have to say, grudge-like figure sitting on top. And it's like, it's left me with a lot of, you know, moments of contemplation, this card, when it comes up, because it kind of really does kind of hark a bit to the shadow side of the Hermit, of what happens when you don't move, when you've learnt your lessons and you're not going anywhere. Because she has quite a possessive energy, like coveting energy over this sort of bright light and kind of knowledge. And I find that very eerie, but also quite poignant. So yeah, there's lots to gain from these cards, you know, but like I said, the sword's very, very, very poignant. And the wands can also be quite scary in this, I find. You get these characters with lots of, it's quite destructive looking when they've got fire in their eyes. We've got the Knight of Wands here, you know, it can be a bit over, you know, it can be a bit much. That's quite sinister. And now we get to the card that might not have first appeared sinister to anyone by looking at it. Let's move this up a little bit. Things are going out of frame left, right and centre, eh? But on closer inspection, and Moonlight Arcana, a really great channel, when she was doing this tag, she picked this card out and I was like, I'm with you on that. I agree. I find this Hierophant card quite sinister. And it's strange because you might think, okay, it's just some people, I think, have looked at this and said, oh, it's just a guy sitting there with some really strange contraption on his head, you know, what's that all about? And it baffles people with this deck. I've noticed that. But for me, I get quite a sinister vibe with this card, and Moonlight Arcana is saying the same. It's gonna sound so specific and a bit weird sci-fi screenplay, but when I see this card, it almost makes me feel like the way this character's looking at me, as if, oh, you shouldn't be here. It's almost like I've sort of peeked behind the veil and teleported to some dimension I shouldn't be in. Back to the sci-fi screenplay here, guys, if you're following along. And this person that's sort of in control of things, you know, he's the kind of lord of all time here with this sort of kind of sand timer at the top here, is looking at me like, oh, like you shouldn't be here kind of thing, like you've peeked behind the veil. And I think that's something that's quite telling of the Hierophant and what it can mean in some ways, of like traditions that are upheld, the people that uphold them, and what lies behind that, you know, where does the power lie. It's interesting because we're going to see that in another deck that I'm going to explore after, which is the Hierophant as well, and also what the artist in that deck, this is the Lubanko deck I'm talking about, what they wrote in their little white book about the Hierophant really kind of speaks to that, is these sort of masked elements of these people in control. Also, when you see that Hierophant kind of presenting as like a priestly figure and stuff, like even harking back to historical kind of attributes of the Hierophant and who was in control there, you know, someone who was saying they were doing God's bidding, but were they really, you know? And that's why this card, I think maybe it's the Hierophant in general that is a card that kind of, ooh, gets me a little bit because of what that meaning can be. So that's interesting. I'd like to know if you guys think some of the cards you find the creepiest, the weirdest, the kind of all a bit disturbing might actually be linked to what some of those cards mean for you as well. That would be interesting to hear. But yeah, like I said, this figure, there's something like I've been transported into his office when I shouldn't be there, and I'm not sure if he's going to let me go, basically. That's a very specific, but that's literally what it gets. It really does get me. Oh, it creeps me out a bit, that card. Tower, again, a very strange sort of like, what have we built up for ourselves? Almost like an Atlantis vibe of this one. I like the decay. This is quite a creepy justice card for me as well, actually. This figure that's almost part of the sort of soil, I would say, coming up almost armless like a scarecrow. Kind of seems a bit like Promethean, like kind of birds have been like picking at her back, but she's back, like she's trying to protect the smaller birds, etc. Oh, she does have arms. I've just noticed that. That's interesting. Yeah, this one is unsettling for me as well. This sense of justice. What are you willing to kind of do? Especially because there are vultures on the other side as well. That's interesting. Yeah, that warrants some more exploration. King of Skins, yeah, King of Wands. He's weird. His eyes are weird. The fact that his fingers becoming a snake kind of makes you think, what is this guy all about? Yeah, there's some really weird and sinister cards in here. But like I said, there is some light and dark aspects. But yeah. It's the sword suit mainly, and that Hierophant. So that's my sort of weird and kind of disturbing offerings from the BloodMoon Tarot there. Let's pop that away. Next up we have the Lubanko Tarot. Okay, I don't think it's any surprise. There are some disturbing cards in this deck, as you will see. Let's pop you away. Starting first and foremost again with our good friend the Hierophant. Yeah, this card creeps me out. You know what? I do find this one very disturbing, and I think it's that sort of mask, like, who are you? You know, where does the power lie when it comes to the Hierophant in terms of these kind of traditions, these sort of power kind of roles in our society? You know, he's got all these hands. I find that really disturbing as well, actually. And like some of them are just poking out of places you don't even know like where it's coming from. It's almost like he's got blood on his hands too. And this sort of, behind this serene mask, this sort of darkness that lays there, kind of harkens to the sort of corrupt popes of the old times, you know. It's very creepy, and like I said in the book to this, the artist really says that about the Hierophant really does make you confront, like, well, where does the power lie? That is an important question to ask ourselves, you know. Why are we upholding these traditions? Do they serve us? Do they not? Are they telling us the truth? Do we need to seek this knowledge ourselves? Because so often, you know, knowledge is restricted from people. You know, the church is a great example. You know, the kind of layman, the common man, was not taught how to read Latin, therefore they could not read the Bible, so they were relying on priests to tell them what it was saying. And priests are, you know, who are you to question when someone's saying, well, we're doing this in the name of God, if you denounce me, you're denouncing God? You know, it's crazy, really, this sort of egotistical kind of psychotic behavior that was running so much in the world at a certain point in time through kings and religious leaders. So it is a scary card, and I think it should be confronting like that. You know, I actually use this deck. I think it is one of my shadowwork decks for sure, because of some of these confronting cards. I mean, I should probably note that some of these cards contain like nudity and kind of violence and stuff, just so if you're not, you know, that's not for you, you can click off this. Harking back to the weird cards now. This Wheel of Fortune creeps me out. What are these creatures with like these clapping weird hands? It's like one of those Simpson Halloween specials where I don't know if you see the one where the dog and the cat kind of get merged together, and you got one with two heads, which is for some reason more easy to kind of digest than the one with just two tails. And this is what this one kind of reminds me of. It's really disturbing when something doesn't have a face. I don't like that. it's like almost like Stranger Things as well, those horrible kind of creatures that come through. There's something, it's the kind of opposite. When something has too many eyes, I find it creepy and I don't like it. When something has no eyes, and that's disturbing to me as well. No eyes, no face. So yeah, and this is meant to be a card that denotes kind of, you know, the Wheel of Fortune, change, I guess, good things coming. But I have to reread what this little white book says about these things, because this does not hark to good change when I see this. It harks a lot to very fast change to me though. But these creatures, I don't like them. I struggle with that. This death card I find quite fascinating, to be honest, but it is quite visceral. There are a lot of images within this deck that are very visceral, which I think lend themselves well to shadow work, and also you'll see lots that kind of lend themselves to kind of, if you are looking to explore maybe some of your relationship patterns, kind of sexuality within this kind of deck that has that element too, which we'll get to. But yeah, it's fascinating. It's like, you know, change, that you get that kind of death, that transformation, that the horse is alive here, and as it goes through, it's becoming something other, but it's still there, still whole. That is a nice image in some ways, but it is disturbing in others. The moon, I find this a really sinister moon card. This figure creeps me out. It's like the swamp thing or creature from the Black Lagoon. Like, what is this? And I think it really harks to those things that sort of are buried in our subconscious. That's what I like about this moon card, you know, bringing those things into the light. It seems very shadowy here. Maybe if it comes out of that stream of kind of the subconscious, it won't be so threatening, or maybe it will, but that's something we still have to confront. I really like that, but it is sinister because he's almost got claws as well, or she, whatever this figure is. It's a bit Samurai Jack. I like that. I'm a big Samurai Jack fan. The devil, really harking to that sort of the attachment, the sort of sexual elements of the devil here, especially with the pomegranate and everything like that, treading in two worlds. Yeah, it is a pretty cool card, this. The Two of Cups, that attachment with the blindfold. Are you going in blind? I like that it makes you question some of the shadow aspects of even the cards we deem to be quite, you know, positive. I have no idea. This just goes in the category of weird, because I still can't figure this card out for the Ten of Cups. Especially having the stag. I don't know, man. Someone needs to help me out with this. I need to read the book again, I think, because I do struggle with this card. Like, I don't know why. Maybe because stag is something I always just automatically kind of link to pentacles, and maybe that's what's throwing me a little bit here. Obviously I know they can be a sign of strength and kind of success and things as well, and guidance, but yeah, it's not your average Ten of Cups, this. I need to really look into this one. So that's a weird card for me. Creepy and disturbing. The Ten of Swords, it's not bad. It's not good enough that he has 10 swords in his back. He has to be chained as well. Almost by his own thoughts, I want to say there. So, and the blood. Yeah, it's quite violent, this, in some aspects, this deck. But like I said again, like with the BloodMoon Tarot, when it comes to that sword suit, it doesn't flit about, it doesn't kind of pull punches. I like that, because they really can feel like that, and it's also kind of giving you a slap in the face in a way, saying you might be keeping yourself there, you know, because these kind of bonds around this person kind of look like they're coming from him initially, right? It's kind of cool. This one I find quite fascinating, this Tower card. I feel like some people don't like it in this deck, which is kind of weird. I think because this deck kind of has two elements to it. It has this sort of almost sci-fi element to it in certain cards, and then it has this very like kind of almost erotic, like violent side, and then the really nice cards are quite beautiful, to be fair. But this, yeah, the reason why I find this is more of a weird card than a creepy card for me, the Tower. It just reminds me of some sort of like VR world that you're in. So it's almost like that sense of that tower you built up anyway, that you're trying so hard to hold on to. Was it even real in the first place? Because the tower's like, it has to go. How real was it? And I like this sort of VR kind of element that I'm seeing in this card, like Tron almost. That's how I'm viewing it. Like, it wasn't real to begin with. Like, that's why it's cracking, you know, and you have to get yourself out of maybe your delusions and things. That's why I really like this Tower card. It's weird. It's really weird, especially with the color palette and stuff, but I'm here for it. Again, another creepy card for the lovers, you know. Oh, a card we usually see that's so beautiful, so whimsical, you know. Here we've got people devouring each other, which really harks to that sort of codependent kind of aspect of the lovers, potentially. You know, that being so enthralled by someone, like almost wanting to be a part of them, you know. And I think that's really interesting. I like this card. I think it's very good for like exploring that, but it's creepy, and I think a lot of people don't like this card. I have noted that. So yeah, we go through. There's going to be a load of weird and creepy sinister cards. I find some of the characters in this are hella sinister. This Emperor almost doesn't even look like he's alive. He's just stuck in his ways. You've got the King of Cups, which is, for me, weird for a King of Cups, because you always see him as this sort of gentle, balanced person. Here he's kind of this kind of frightening merman kind of person that has no face but just eyes bearing into your soul. Yeah, this is a weird card for me. I struggle a bit with it because it doesn't kind of speak to what I see the King of Cups being. I don't know, I have to work with this card a bit more, to be honest. I'd be interested to see if any of you have this deck, or even just looking at this, what you get from it, because genuinely it's a bit baffling for me, this, and I don't really like it. It's that face I don't like. Got the Queen of Swords, yeah, that all the blood coming down for her, like how cutthroat she can be, especially with that sword at her throat. So it definitely looks at the more sinister sides of these. This is honestly one of the most sinister High Priestesses I have ever seen. Again, when you have a face with no eyes, what is that? It's so creepy. But obviously her all-seeing eye is above, right? She's attached to these two pillars, the light and dark, you know. But there's something about this I don't like. She reminds me... oh my goodness, the Japanese yokai goddess of the underworld, I forgot her name, but very interesting character, also back to that anime Noragami. I think she comes in at a certain point. She's quite scary in that, and I guess there is something that can be quite scary about the High Priestess, is confronting, again, like that Moon card had the same energy, confronting the sort of subconscious, the things that are not being seen, and sometimes that can be quite scary. But it seems like even with that, all of that darkness, she has this light energy that's, you know, she's keeping her grounded and attached to the material, which I quite like. So yeah, I think we're just going to end up going through, but as you can see, you know, there are a lot of kind of violent cards. We'll end on this then. This Six of Cups. A lot of people don't like this card in this deck because, one, they think it deviates a lot from the rest of the artwork and is almost a bit childish. I could see that kind of point of view. But having read the little white book and also sat with this card a little bit, because I can be quite a nostalgic person and a sentimental person, and can kind of look at things through rose-tinted glasses, which the Six of Cups can denote sometimes. It's interesting to see that it is drawn so crudely as a child, and that things, you know, things in childhood aren't always that, you know, rose-tinted as what they seem. That's what this card is about, you know. That's what the illustrator wanted to put across, that sometimes that nostalgia and sentimentality can be more of like a prison and stuff, you know. It's not quite as good as what it's making itself out to be, because you can even see it here. It's almost like a countdown with this chalk line there, and I appreciate that. But it is creepy because it is harking to this sort of card of childhood or nostalgia or the past, and we like to kind of look at those things in a nice light, but, you know, it's a bit hard hitting when we're looking at them from a different lens, right? So yeah, we'll end it there with the Lubanko Tarot. But there's all the weird and creepy sinister cards from that deck. So next up we have our last tarot, and that is the Blackwater Tarot. A tarot I specifically bought for kind of shadow work because it is quite, you'll see, it's like a Rider-Waite clone in many ways, but it's got its own thing going on. It's quite a dark deck, and it has some creepy cards. Again, I'm going to give you a little disclaimer. There is some nudity and violence and maybe some images some of you might not like, so bear that in mind. Where do we start with this one? Yeah, it's just like there's this, it's like we're in this medieval kind of townish kind of place with these sort of Tim Burton emaciated kind of characters. Here we've got this Two of Pentacles, and it's creepy. Look at him. He's like a clown, his face, and with this juggling element, and it's sort of like kind of harkens to that. It's like someone's mocking you, like, oh look, you can't make a choice, you know, that Two of Pentacles there, you know, that's sort of the way that indecision can plague us sometimes, you know. But it's not, it's this facial expression I don't like. I don't like this character at all. So yeah, that's up there as one of my creepiest. And then the Two of Wands, and these are cards really that necessarily shouldn't be too creepy, but I drew this in a reading recently and I find it quite fascinating. You know, he's this, look at him, he's a completely emaciated character here with this wild, like, crazy look on his face. And you know, the Two of Wands is about kind of planning and kind of deciding, you know, I kind of want something different for myself. I want to travel on, but not quite knowing how to do that yet. But what I like about this card, even though it's creepy and that guy creeps me out, it made me really pay attention, because it's almost like how staying in the same place can make you feel a bit crazed and a bit crazy sometimes. Like, he's made that choice, like he stepped away from this rod and he's actually picked that one. And it's almost like he stepped out of a castle or fort, as in like, damn you guys, I'm going my own way, I don't care. Like, he's come from something bad and stepping into something kind of better. And that's something we have to like bear in mind when we're in this planning phase. Like, there's a reason we're in it and there's a reason we want change. That's what I like about this card. And the sort of crazed look of this character, and the fact that he's almost looks like he's been sucked dry from where he's been kind of makes this card that wouldn't usually hit home for me too much do that for me. So yeah, so I guess there is something about the creepy and the sort of emaciated look that actually helps you pay attention to the different meanings of the card, so that's cool. Strength, another one, kind of this quite violent, it's creepy, because like the woman's like, she is like barely, like, you know, barely alive by the looks of it, like how kind of small she is, but she's showing so much heart with this beast kind of attacking her, you know, all these kind of ink splotch. You'll see this a lot throughout this deck. It's almost like blood, but you know, there's so many meanings. Like, that's that inner kind of inner strength that we find, you know. So many kind of interpretations of this card that I find really interesting, especially through the little white book that came with it. It's about that internal female strength, you know. For me, it's almost like this opposing kind of, I don't know, I get Beauty and the Beast vibe of this card, but also it's like this sort of, when you have these different aspects of yourself, being a woman, being a female particularly, this is the way I view this card. Like, sometimes it feels like you're in a battle with those two parts of yourself. Like, can I be vulnerable and I be strong at the same time? Can I be nurturing and be authoritative, you know? Like, what part of you is going to win, or do they have to be in conflict? You know, I like that about that card, but if it wasn't so violent, I don't think it would make me think as much. So that's why I appreciate the creepiness. Got the King of Swords here now. The creepiest thing about this guy, again, we're harking back to this thing I have with eyes. He seems blind. Okay, he has no pupils, and that, I don't like that. But I also like how that speaks a bit to this King of Swords character, when they can be quite stoic and stern and emotionless on the more shadow aspect. Okay, and that, you know, I feel like we always, with the eyes glazed over, I feel that really kind of, what's the word? That really hits home for me when I draw this card. You know, to bear that in mind, like, where is the emotion coming into this? It's like he's just holding this sword willy-nilly. Obviously he killed someone or stabbed something because there's blood on it, but he doesn't really seem phased. And that's something that I really think is quite interesting, a question to be posed by the King of Swords. Again, like, we're getting this theme that sometimes these creepy, weird, visceral cards actually have quite a lot of layers of meaning, or because we pay more attention to them, you know, they make us contemplate things, they make us face things. Hence, this is why it's a shadow deck for me. That's the whole point. Let me know, drop me what some of your favorite shadow work decks are, you know, decks you find confronting, because I definitely feel like, as this is this is my year of the devil, and I am embarking, I've decided I'm going to really go for it this year with the shadow work for my own growth. Let me know which ones you have, because I'll be really interested in to see like whether I should be adding, you know, more to my collection that could help. Okay, this is a creepy Six of Wands, because it's not how you ever really see the Six of Wands, is it? It's meant to be success, like yay, like I've kind of made my way through whatever it was that I was doing. But this is harking to that. At what cost? You have this horse that's almost like attacking its own kind of rider, because maybe it's like, I'm tired, like I've been fighting your wars with you, you know, I've had enough. That's the trauma of getting to the top sometimes. That's what I see in this card. Like, what were you willing to do to get to the top? Even though it's success, it's like, how tiring that must have been. What did that take from you? How did that change you? You know, with this crazed kind of traumatized looking horse here, it really was such a strange card to pull, and see that it was a Six of Wands when I pulled this recently. And it is because it's such a violent card. I find it quite a violent card for what I would thought would be, you know, the end of the road when it comes to success. But again, we know that's not what the Six of Wands is. It's almost just a plateau. And maybe this horse knows, listen, we're going to have to still be defending this. And what did we do to get here? You know, words that we sometimes need to ask ourselves. This is not really a creepy one, but I just find it interesting that it's like with the Chariot, but there's nothing, although it looks stationary, the fact that there's nothing kind of controlling it makes me feel like I can go off at any point, which makes me feel uneasy. Again, a Sinister Moon card. I like this. I'm liking the Sinister Moon cards, because I think sometimes a moon can be a little bit soft, when that's not always what it harks to. Like, I know it doesn't always hark to kind of fear and kind of, you know, things lurking in the darkness and all of that, and illusions, you know, but, you know, on the quiet shadow aspect of it, it can, you know, and with this, it's just like, you just have these wolves that are looking at us and being like, oh, like, are they going to come for us now? You know, are we ready to face these demons of the night? It looks like this pack of wolves are about to gain on us, and God knows what they're going to do. So we better face what that moon's trying to illuminate, right? That's what I like about that card. This is a weird and creepy. You'll notice all the aces in this deck basically are pictures of hands, right? It's the kind of age-old thing. Still the hands like we'd see in the Rider-Waite. Whoops, I'm going a bit out of thing there. But they're kind of weird and creepy. I don't know if you can see, there's so like little, and within the main hand, like it's like the kind of bones and arteries are kind of becoming other hands to hold this sword, and it's just weird. Like, yeah, this is just a weird card. I don't really know what more to make of it, but I think it's definitely saying take these opportunities and like hold on to them. The High Priestess, it's such a busy card that it's almost hard to kind of make out what the face is. Who is she? What she's sitting on? All these kind of bones and jewelry and crosses and everything. There's almost a kind of Hierophant vibe about her too. But like, I kind of like that. I think that you can't see it. Kind of denotes that sort of hidden aspect of her. Like, where's your eye being drawn? It's creepy. The face is creepy because you can't even really tell. Like, it doesn't sort of look like a kind of average feminine kind of face or figure, really. You can't make that out. Just this kind of eerie presence with a really cackling grin. Yeah, it's confronting, this one. Again, it's quite a confronting High Priestess card. The Hanged Man, almost harking to sort of crucifixion there. Ten of Swords, basically you can barely see that there's a person under all those swords. That's creepy and violent, right? But denotes it's the end, you know. It's the end. Look at all that blood. King of Wands again. Some of the court cards in this, like the characters are just really hard to make out. They're creepy. All of these kind of jagged kind of edges, and like I said, the sort of Tim Burton-esque kind of anatomy that kind of, oh, it puts you off, but you can't not look at it, you know. Puppeteer of the Devil. I like that. That's quite sinister. Because it's like he's coming into the dark, but you're left in the dark, but you're not aware of it yet, because they don't look too scared or anything. One of my favourite death cards. I wouldn't say it's creepy, but maybe to some. But that transformation, pulling off his cloak, revealing himself. Very realistic heart. Again, another creepy Hierophant card with this small Pope-like element, with these people begging him for mercy, and he's got all the power in his hands, you know, just laughing behind the scenes. Yeah, this one rubs me up the wrong way. I don't like this one. Especially because we have those figures there. You know, the keys are crossed, like they don't have the ability to kind of open up the doors they want themselves, because they have this gatekeeper there, yeah. The Knight of Cups, very visceral there, with that sort of head, horse's head coming out of the cup, like thirsting, you know, with that sort of romantic element of the Knight of Cups, like, oh, my eyes are on you in it, but maybe not being completely grounded. It's creepy. So yeah, as you'll see, there's just a lot of creepy cards in this, but I find it quite hard hitting. Like I said, I bought it as a shadowwork deck, so I needed that depth, I needed that sort of triggering imagery, I believe, for me to work best with it. So yeah, that is the Blackwater Tarot, a very creepy and kind of weird deck there. Our next offering is an oracle, and that is The Forest of Precious Twigs, Where We Meet by Trisha Murray. This is a really interesting deck, actually. I actually think it was created as the artist themselves was going through some sort of, you know, shadow work, I want to say, potentially. When I've read the story, that's what it appears to be, or some sort of awakening. And they took to drawing out their experience in these different, either these visions for the pictures, or indeed just putting charcoal, hence the precious twig, these little burnt twigs she calls it, to paper, and seeing what came. And I think it's such a good work for that. There's just so much depth in this, so much you get from these images, but they are creepy, and some of them are weird as hell. Like, look at this. I don't even know, it's like some reflective surface or an egg, but you see these kind of shadows like confronting you, looking back. Again, we got these figures with no faces. That's something that just basically freaks me out, I think. This one, oh, you're doing some inner child work. This one right here gets me, because it's like this kind of abandoned, there's something, I don't think you can get much creepier than when you have sort of dark figures but they're children. I don't know about you guys, but for me it hits on a whole other level when it's like a childlike figure. It's more eerie, it's more creepy. It's why that kind of stuff in scary movies freaks us out more, right? But this is like a lonely kind of looking child lost on this island amongst all this water, this ocean, just there with their teddy bear. That's all they have, like alone and abandoned. And that feeling of abandonment comes through strong in this card. So it is very, it's sad and it's hard hitting. It does make you confront certain aspects of yourself and your inner child. But it gives me the heebie-jeebies as well, I have to admit. Here we've got this figure that you don't know if they've wounded themselves or they're trying to keep themselves from bleeding out. Or they're scared to speak. What is it? What is this kind of violence around the throat area here, you know? What are they trying to do? Keep themselves alive, or, you know, the opposite? This is a bit of a weird one. You'll see this throughout the deck. It's a lot of black and white with the charcoal images, and then you'll get every now and then these kind of colourful things thrown in, and this just reminds me of like Death, or I don't remember his name, the boatman that's there in where Hades is in the underworld. Oh, I forgot. Anyway, but I don't know why I see it as a Rubik's Cube. I guess that's the puzzles of life, right? Maybe you have to solve it and then you can move on. It's sort of kind of harks a bit to purgatory, this for me. I don't know why. It's because you've not like stepped into the boat yet. But yes, weird, but still sinister and creepy because of those dark characters. This again, we've got the weird eye thing going on. This, I don't even know, hands in places they shouldn't be. This kind of Edvard Munch, or Munch, I can't say his name. Scream figure there. That's sort of a emaciated figure, really bearing into your soul. Oh look, one eye is on the hand there. Sort of kind of Guillermo del Toro, Pan's Labyrinth kind of style. Yeah, it's weird. It's weird, and it just kind of takes me to this whole kind of thing of like just surrendering to terror, or just going crazy. You kind of have these hands that feel like they're trying to comfort you, but who are they coming from? It's all weird. Oh, this is the one. This one gets me because it's your eye gets drawn to different ones on this. There's this like horrible. Oh, I don't like this, and it reminds me. I don't know if anyone watched Courage the Cowardly Dog, and that, trust me, any of us that grew up on Cartoon Network at a certain point in time, like the early noughties, late 90s. My God, I don't know what those people were on when they were making those shows. A hell of a lot of LSD or some form of drug, I would say. But I think that stuck with me and traumatized me for life, really. Some of those episodes that I would watch, you know, especially of Courage the Cowardly Dog. And this reminds me of that farmer, because he creeped me out, like the horrible old man that's his owner, yeah. And it's this creature that's kind of lurking about. Kind of reminds me of sort of a jump scare kind of game as well. And look at this, almost like more of a fine art kind of style figure under the sheets. It really adheres to that sort of shutting yourself away, like not wanting to emerge because of what you might have to face kind of thing. And it looks like all the earth is scorched as well. There's a lot to kind of draw on from these cards. That's what I like about it. This figure, weird as hell. I don't know why there's an elephant on her head. Is it the weight of the world? Got the serene figure here that's almost becoming one with the trees. This sort of, it's almost like she's been taken away by the whole, like a banshee kind of creature. I don't know. There's just so much in this deck, you know. That's creepy, visceral, but definitely makes you think. You know, and then you have some quite beautiful cards. There's still that cloaked hooded figure. This, you know, quite kind of cult looking like, but then it could be community as well, depending on how you look at it. Crazed figure, sort of Edgar Allan Poe crow there. What's going on as he knocked that over? Just so much. And I really like it's an indie deck. I think it's a Scottish creator. It was on Etsy. Hopefully there'll be, I don't think it's available right now, but I think they might be printing more. But yeah, so look at these. Oh, yeah, it's creepy, isn't it? But so poignant. Genuinely, I find it so cool to look. I just think it's so cool, and it really does make you contemplate and look at some things within yourself. And I appreciate that someone's gone to this sort of, this is such a personal project for the artist who's created it, you know, and what they've been going through. You can really feel that, like you feel the emotion in it, you feel that sort of journey, you know, especially like, because these are split into suits, and you can kind of see the kind of transition from maybe the kind of harder phases of maybe doing that sort of shadow work or an awakening into the more serene look. You have this creature who's actually, you finally see their face under the veil with the feather there. So yeah, I shall leave it there. And that is the Forest of Precious Twigs. Last but not least, maybe a little bit of a wild card, but I'm going to put the Iris Oracle in here. Might be a bit of an interesting pick, you might think, but as you'll see, because yeah, it's got quite crude, childlike drawings, I want to say. But to be honest, I think that's what sometimes adds to the creepiness of some of the darker cards in this. It almost reminds me of like, you know. If you ever watched a horror film where the kid's been drawing out stuff that's happening, and like, you know, you're meant to go see your child drawing nice kind of things, right? And then you see these weird figures, you're like, what's going on? Again, there is a running theme with eyes, you know, restlessness, all the eyes on you, they're not waking, you know, I mean, not getting to sleep, that sort of insomnia feeling there, all the numbers on the clock becoming more and more and more as the days go by and you're getting less and less sleep. Creepy. Even some of the tag names in this, the Afraid of the Attic, these half wolf-like creatures, like all the sort of bloodiness of whatever the hell is going on there in that attic that they're going up to. But creepy as hell. Again, the creeping hands, sort of suppression of a star being by hands unworthy. You know, the cards in here that are meant to hit you harder definitely do, just through the imagery, but I do find them weird and I find them creepy because of that childlike kind of aspect. This one creeps me out. I don't know, again, is it the whole, so many hands, like faces that don't have all of the features there, that sort of crazed energy. Weird, really weird. But I love this deck. I think it's quite poignant and I do love the messages that come with it. But it's the childlike drawings that do it for me, especially when they're trying to illustrate something kind of a bit dark. It's that marrying again, when you bring children or like that childlike element into the marrying it with the dark, it's more hard hitting for me. It's eerie dependency there. This, oh, the one who hides the sun, it just looks like, you know, if you found a child that's been been possessed or something in a horror movie and they're drawing all these weird things, or maybe they are innocent but they're, you know, being kind of, you know, seeing things they shouldn't, or like, you know, and that's creepy. I don't like that. Especially when you put it in with some of the bright colours, but it's like these faces, because you think, oh, a child should know how to draw that. And yeah, I know a child didn't draw this deck, but do you know what I mean? It has that vibe about it. Devil, the deceitful. Yeah, it's just a very weird, and outside of being creepy in some of them, it's just weird, isn't it? Weird and wonderful. I do love it, like I said. I don't have any other deck like it, but it's weird. It's weird. Even some of the taglines are weird, but the messages are poignant, and you can get so much just from the imagery also, you know. It is quite a good intuitive reader, that's what I like about it. But I couldn't not put it in this tag because it is. When have you ever seen other images like this within an oracle or a tarot? You know, kind of taking on some of these hard-hitting subjects. With childlike drawings, never. Love grows love. I like that one. But yeah, the sweeter cards in this are very sweet, that has to be said, but we can't shy away from some of those creepy, weird ones. I'm sorry, we just can't. Even the nice ones are weird. Like that. But yeah, we'll leave it there. That is the Iris Oracle. Oh, there she is. Ungrateful daughter and earthly mother. This sort of big-headed, sort of Studio Ghibli kind of creature here. It's funny. Yeah, that's the Iris Oracle. So guys, that was my roundup of my most weirdest and most disturbing cards within my decks. Thanks once again to Saturnarium and Tarot for the Heathens, and Moonlight Arcana, because I did see it on her channel first. Let me know what you think of my weird and wonderful offerings for you guys. I enjoyed it. Definitely join in if it was entertaining for you guys. I'd love to see what your cards and your choices would be. I think it was actually, you know, on another kind of side note, it was quite an interesting kind of exploration into these kind of cards and what they kind of can mean for us, and if we can get past our triggers, for example, like, and actually look at these cards, maybe they can offer us like quite a lot, you know, of kind of contemplation and extra layers of meaning if we are willing to confront them. So that was really interesting for me to kind of explore today with you guys. So yeah, let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you can relate, if you have any of these decks. That would be good to know. drop me your favorite shadow work decks also as well, because I'm definitely looking to be getting more of those, because you know, I'm trying to kind of limit my deck buying this year, but to keep it to ones that are going to be useful, and I definitely would like to be using decks for shadow work. So thank you once again. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, you know, subscribe if you like the channel. We'll hopefully be getting more content out more consistently. And yeah guys, hope you're well, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.